I know the air I'm breathing, it's no good for my lungs. I do this every season, I hate when summer comes. I fall into a trap that I made by myself. Oh, and I always do the wrong thing. I'm unstable and I'm unsteady, I've lost a million times already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down. I feel unable and so unworthy, my heart feels heavy, I've lost already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. I'm always self-destructive, I take a hit, I love it. Can you give me a second? I'm slow, got blurry vision. I fall into a trap that I made by myself. Oh, and I always do the wrong thing. I'm unstable and I'm unsteady, I've lost a million times already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down. I feel unable and so unworthy, my heart feels heavy, I've lost already, and I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. Please help me see the things that I am, I don't understand. I'm doing the best that I can right now, but it's never enough. I'm not even ready to slow down. Just slow down. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now. And I'm so sorry, but I'm not able to slow down now.
Somebody like me. Somebody like me.
Wondering how to make a play all night, looking your way from out of sight, thinking I should ask if you're doing alright. You weren't easy, so hard to ignore. Pull up on your right, ask what you're drinking, ask what you like. Said you look good in the dim bar light, so damn cheesy. Who'd have thought you'd fall for somebody like me? When you asked my name, I panicked, so out of my league. And your body was so magnetic. Before I knew it, we talked, and I think about you a cocktail. You told me that you've been waiting for somebody like me. Somebody like me. Somebody like me. Took you out and showed you the city. How'd you let somebody so pretty's what they said to me? Yeah, that's what they said to me. Well, they told me I didn't stand a chance, yeah. Face value, had you at a glance, yeah. But nobody ever asked if you could dance, yeah. Well, only one who did that was somebody like me. When you asked my name, I panicked, so out of my league. And your body was so magnetic. Before I knew it, we talked, and I think about you a cocktail. You told me that you've been waiting for somebody, somebody like me. You told me that you've been waiting for somebody like me. You told me that you've been waiting for somebody, somebody like me. Somebody like me.
sonido. Solo voy a decir en inglés que en unos minutos vamos a arrancar y ya. For the whole people that are connected in our live stream, we are going to start in some minutes. Thanks for being here y bienvenidos para todos los que están presenciales. Gracias por estar en este espacio.
Zuluaga, and I am a member of the Cordillera team. I am the global manager of this brand, which is part of Compañía Nacional de Chocolates, and we're quite happy to welcome you to the launching of our biodiversity campaign, Cordillera Biodiversity Campaign, and we would like to thank you because we believe that our essence, our heart is born at the origin, and again, our essence and what we are as a company is born at the origin. Today, we would like to welcome very special guests and very special allies that are part of this process. Daniela Arancibia from Profores, Juan Pablo Gomez, our panel members, Pedro Restrepo from Pro Fresa, Pro Colombia, de Jardin, um, Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, CIAT, Andy, Agrosavia, Proaves, Cornare, and other institutes are here today, among with other of our allies. They're here to help us work in our strategy. Likewise, we would like to greet our opinion leaders, different chefs, different allies that come from different companies. We have some that came all the way from Venezuela. And special greetings to all our different work teams. Behind all that you see today, there's a lot of work. Cordillera team, sustainability team, the team of procurement and agricultural promotion. Again, all of them are the reason for Cordillera. And today we're here to again speak about this biodiversity that lives in our cocoa plantation. So to begin, I would like to welcome Jorge Bueno, our business director, our B2B business manager, Art Cordillera, and he's going to speak with us for a few minutes. Welcome, Jorge. He's going to share some welcoming remarks with us. Good morning, everyone, says Jorge. Great to be with you today, those of you who are present here today and those of you online. And to me, it is a pleasure to represent Cordillera in this very important event for our sustainability agenda. And today, I would like to again make this a little bit personal. For more than 25 years, I was part of the B2C world, massive consumption, working with prices, trends, innovation, competitors. That was my focus most of the time. And 2 years ago, I joined the Cordillera team to embrace this brand. And this brand has enabled me to discover and rediscover the world of the industrial world, the world of trade from a different perspective, because Cordillera, without a doubt, provides value to the complete value chain. With Cordillera, I was able to move of this last part of reaching consumers, and I was able to learn what's behind the product, what's behind this chocolate, who is behind the product, farmers, producers, nature, the countryside, sustainability, and this has connected me with this brand that represents us, and this brand that has become a flagship of Latin American or Colombian chocolate from Colombia to the rest of the world. We are now present in more than 22 countries. We have advanced a lot, although there is a long way to go, but without a doubt, this is another step. Another step in this journey, another step in this climb to make Cordillera a brand that truly has an impact globally with this sustainability flag. And once again, welcome. Thanks for taking the time to be here today, and hopefully you will enjoy it. I would like to pass the word to Naki Quintero right now. She's the leader of strategy for Cordillera. Nati, the floor is yours. Director of Global Marketing and Strategy, Natalie Quintero. Good morning, says Nati Quintero. To me, it is a pleasure to be here with you because the objective of Cordillera moves me, touches me, helps me get up every morning with plenty of happiness because I'm able to work not only for the culture of cocoa in Colombia, but also for education in the gastronomic and industrial world. I'm going to ask the master to present the first slide. 9 years ago, we had a dream, and this dream was to create a brand that was anchored in sustainability, anchored in reivindicating cocoa culture in Colombia, working hand in hand with the producers with this very indulgent product that is under our Cordillera brand. And 9 years ago, again, we had many conversations with the agricultural promotion team. And before we began to think about a portfolio and about a brand strategy, we began to think about a strategy to reivindicate what we do, to reivindicate our mission to work and to raise the level of this cocoa culture around the world, and to also show the world that Colombia is cocoa, that Colombia is chocolate. And let's go to the next slide, please. On the next slide, we're going to speak to you about biodiversity. Again, you are all invited to be part of this event, so we can speak about biodiversity, and so we can speak about what has led our Cordillera all the way to where we are today. It might sound easy when we say that Cordillera is in 22 countries, but actually we began in only 3 countries, Colombia, Mexico, and in the United States. That's where we had our brand registered. And now, 9 years later, we can say that we have transcended, because what mobilizes us again is to help us develop all these different people that work with chocolate. Again, we are in 3 different chocolates. We have a team with different chefs, 17 chocolate chefs, and they allow our clients in the food service world, they teach them to transform this chocolate into multiple presentations to delight our consumers. And keep in mind that chocolate is transformed into an ingredient by us at Cordillera, but after that chefs and industrials transform these products into other products that reach customers. So Cordillera also has this mission, the mission of educating consumers so they use and consume chocolate in a more responsible way. We currently impact more than 16,000 clients globally, again 16,000 clients, and it sounds as if we began yesterday, but there's a tremendous story of work, of resilience, of learning behind all this, learning that international markets need to be approached differently compared to local markets. And again, this helped us or forced us to adapt our value proposition to be present not only in Colombia, but to be present also in Central America, in Ecuador, Peru, Mexico, in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, in the Middle East. And again, those are just some of the geographies where the Cordillera brand is actually present with its chocolate flag, with its cocoa flag, sustainable cocoa flag. Let's go to the next slide, please. On the next slide, we see that this 9-year story has enabled us to continue strengthening sustainability. Sustainability is sort of like the compass of our business, and we have built a consistent brand, getting up day after day, thinking that each step that we're going to take is going to leave a footprint of sustainability. Again, that's what has led us to 2 international recognitions, as mentioned before. I heard last week we went to Amsterdam Cocoa Week at a panel at Amsterdam Cocoa Week. Someone said that awards were simply accidents, or in other words, that we do not work for these awards. As a matter of fact, this recognition that we're about to see on this slide are actually awards to this continuous work. Again, this is not the objective of our world. Simply we got a knock on our door or received an email and someone told us, we know who you are, we've been following you for the past 9 years, we see you in social media in different areas, we have heard from your customers speaking about you, and they ask us to nominate ourselves to this sustainability recognition. So we did. Last year is when we received the most recent recognition, and again we appointed ourselves with our sustainability program that goes by the name of TENEA. So we presented ourselves to the World Confectionery Conference. We nominated ourselves and we were recognized with this award that you see in front of you. Again, this is an award for everyone that has helped us build this brand. This is also an award for our allies, for our partners that help us with Atenea, IDE, SENA, University of Cordova, and other University of Cordova, where we are implementing Atenea in the region of Cordova. In 2021, we also received an award that is a little bit older, but that recognition again brings us to this path where we want to be. And again, we want to be consistent, and we're going to focus today in our sustainability model, and we're going to also highlight why sustainability is so important in this global perspective. I would like to give the word to Jorge once again so he can continue with this part. The prior slide, please. I spoke to you a few minutes ago that this is another step for us, and it is a big challenge for us when we embraced sustainability. We embrace parameters or objectives that are quite important in four very important agendas. The first is the zero deforestation. The other one is with regards to greenhouse effect gases, human rights, and the one that we're going to go into deeper today is the biodiversity agenda. And this is going to help us make this business a sustainable business. And go back to the previous slide, please. Prior slide, please. Thank you. And when we went over this information with my team to see what this had actually implied, and when we spoke about biodiversity, the biodiversity chapter, speaking with J. Leon mentioned to me a very important finding at one of our farms. I do not know if you guys are familiar with this reptile, Basiliscus common. Basiliscus common. It looks like an iguana, but it's a reptile that can walk on water. It can walk, yes, on top of water. And Jota mentioned to me that the fact that this species lives in one of our farms indicates a balance. A balance or an equilibrium between an equilibrium in our ecosystem between the water and the earth. And if this common Basilicus is there, that indicates that that is a healthy ecosystem. And this is sort of like a spoiler of what we are about to present, because without a doubt this Basiliscus common represents walking on water. Yes, Basiliscus walks on water. Walking on water sounds impossible. It sounds impossible to make businesses that take care of nature, but that is actually our mission. And we walk on water when we look for equilibrium between what we sell, what we produce, and how we make this possible. So I would like to present to you now the manifesto of our biodiversity campaign. Again, the campaign that is being launched today. So I'll present the manifesto to you now.
Cordillera brings to life and celebrates sustainable chocolate, aiming to become an agent of change in the global cocoa industry. Behind our chocolate is a clear commitment to sustainability, a conscious way of relating to the land, to people, and to the life it supports. And it all begins here. At Cordillera, a new day begins. The first rays of sunlight reach the agroforestry cacao fields and the ecosystem awakens. Birds break the morning silence. Their songs mark the start of a new day. Reptiles and amphibians emerge, drawing energy from the sun that sustains the ecosystem. Mammals move through the fields, acting as silent guardians of the life found in the soil and the trees. This is how each day begins. A cycle that brings life and biodiversity to our cacao ecosystems. In Colombia, cacao grows in balance with nature through agroforestry systems and the committed work of farmers who cultivate and protect the life around them. Under the shade of trees and in fertile soils, cacao becomes a refuge and a sanctuary for biodiversity. That is why, at Cordillera, we celebrate life and work hand in hand with farmers and experts to conserve and protect biodiversity across our cacao fields. In every hectare of cacao we plant a commitment. Every time you choose Cordillera, you choose to work alongside more than 13,000 farmers and help protect over 570 species of plants and wildlife that share Colombia's cacao growing landscapes. Because we know the best chocolate comes from where life thrives. At Cordillera, we cultivate life.
Let's give a round of applause to this concept. And now we have the true conviction that chocolate is born, where life blooms, and this is why there are so many stories behind our chocolate. This is why we have our chocolate chefs today. This is why we have these big industries giving life to this chocolate. This is why we want to give life or space to this very important moment. So we can see where how this strategy affects all the hands that touch our chocolate. Jota Leon, our leader of sustainability at Cordillera, is going to speak next, and then after him, our panel members. We're going to go ahead and begin with our panel member after Jota. Well, thank you, Danny, and it is a pleasure to be with you today in this very special day for our brand, for our model, for our business, for our value proposal. We as a chocolate brand, we are a brand that manages nature, that administrates nature. So it is very important for me to tell you the complete story from the beginning. How did we do it? Well, because again, we have a chocolate company speaking about biodiversity. So for this, we invited a team of very important allies, very important for our ecosystem at Cordillera, ecosystem of allies, so they can describe the complete story to you from the first link in the chain, eco crops and everything that we do in the growing, and how we transform that into chocolate and into value dialogues and into initiatives that our clients promote in their different businesses and in their different brands and in their production lines. So with this, I'm going to introduce Daniela Nancivia. Daniela Nancivia, she's from Profores, Latin America. She's been with us, a very important ally, very important partner with regards to making or materializing or turning this dream into a reality. Daniel Arancibia, he has a degree in forest studies, and he has a PhD from University of Pacifico. He has a specialty in green finances from Javeriana University in Colombia, and he also has more than 20 years of international experience. Daniel has plenty of knowledge, and he promotes sustainable development initiatives, and he works with different companies and governments to obtain positive results inside and beyond the supply chains. Daniel, welcome. With Daniel and the team of Universidad del Norte, they're from Barranquilla. So with his help and with the help of the university, we were able to conduct all this research that gave life to this exercise. Another very important person that is with us is Pedro Restrepo, our ally, our friend, and we're going to speak with Pedro Restrepo about some very important stories that began in 2019 with regards to translating this exercise of understanding nature, understanding how nature is a very important asset inside our businesses. Pedro is the business manager and founder of Todo Fresa. He has built his industry around a clear idea, and that is that businesses can and should have an objective. He's also a partner and co-founder of Colombian Spira, Redman, and Casa Balay. These initiatives also integrate gastronomy, territories, hospitality, and conservation. Pedro is convinced that industrial growth does not have to go against nature. Instead, it should be in harmony with nature. His work proves that profitability and positive impacts can be inside the same business model. Also, in this panel, in this conversation, we have Alejandro Gil. Alejandro Gil is the director of sales and agricultural promotion in our company. He's been with the company for many years, and he truly believes that sustainability is a business catalyzer, is a business model. And again, from the promotion, agricultural promotion team, there we have found this instrumental ally to give birth to this sustainability strategy of our Cordillera brand. Alejo, welcome. Floor is yours. And so we're going to begin. Going to give you a little bit more context before we begin. So again, context that I'm going to present to you was sort of like presented in this brief manifesto video that we presented a few seconds ago. Basically, that video was about Colombia, what Colombia is in terms of biodiversity, in terms of nature. Colombia is one of the 17 mega diverse countries around the world. Again, only 17 countries around the world are called mega diverse, and that makes us a very important hub for the management of nature and the management of our industry. We are the first country with regards to our number of birds, amphibians, and butterflies. Second country in terms of the number of flowers and palm trees that we have, and we are among the top 5 countries among mammals and reptiles in this planet. To speak a little bit more as to what all this means in this nature hub, as to what cocoa means in this hub. Well, cocoa in Colombia is grown in approximately 190,000 hectares. We are present throughout the country. Approximately 65,000 producers in our country, families that produce cocoa. Our company works directly with approximately half of the 65,000 families. Approximately 67,000, 68,000 tons are produced of cocoa in Colombia. So let's continue with the story. Let me tell you how the story begins, how we begin to give birth to our biodiversity strategy. Again, working with Pro Forest and Universidad del Norte, we went to our 3 cocoa farms. We have 3 cocoa producing farms in Colombia, and we try to conduct an inventory or an exercise to understand exactly where we are, an inventory of the species that live in our crops, that live in our farms. So again, we conducted an exercise to understand the species of mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and so on lived in these farms. I understood that herpets are reptiles, amphibians, that is the new term. Again, there is technical language for all this. And we learned that technical language. So in other words, we also understood the types of fish species and the type of plant species that live there. And with this exercise, inventory exercise, we learned that there are more than 20 species of migratory birds that live in our cocoa farms, and more than 10 species are under critical threat or under extinction threat. And again, as I mentioned before, there are different technical levels, different technical categories of this species, and we also understood that there are more than 60 species that are part of CTEX. CTEX is what determines what species are critical in terms of traffic of those species. So what we learned in this exercise is that our cocoa farms and cocoa in general plays a fundamental role in biodiversity conservation, therefore on the health of nature. And without a healthy nature, we have no cocoa, and without no cocoa, we have no cocoa industry, of course. So to give life to this process, next slide, please. So again, to give a life to this project, again, we produce an inventory of a species, and we were able to produce this inventory only by working hand in hand with the Universidad del Norte, and with ProForest, and with all the technicians in the different farms. And we went to the farms, to the territory, and for several days we conducted a very scientific exercise, sort of like a National Geographic or Discovery exercise. Basically, we use camouflage and so on. I'll describe this in just a little bit. So we monitor in a way that was not intrusive. We monitor all the different species that live in our farms. Next slide, please. There you go. And I would like to begin the panel. After having presented the context, I would like to begin by asking a question to Alejandro. Alejandro, if he can tell us again, nature, biodiversity, bird species, categories, different criticality levels, and so on. The question is, what makes all this possible? Well, there's actually an actor that is part of this work that is not here with us today, and that actor is the main, or plays the main role, and that is the farmer, the producer. Yes, those cocoa producers, day after day, live in their cocoa plantations with all the different species and with all this nature that we're describing. So we in the industry, and as a matter of fact, last week we spoke about this a lot at the summit that we went to, and we see many actors around the world how important it is to go from monocrops to agroforestry crops. So Alejandro, again, we understand that you guys work hand in hand with producers, with farmers. So how can we make them aware of the importance of having these agroforestry crops instead of monocrops? Well, Jota, thank you for the question, and it is an honor to be here today representing the procurement team. Again, Alejandro Gil is my name, and I would like to tell you a little bit more about cocoa. Cocoa is a magical species. Again, cocoa is a magical species, and those that produce cocoa are included as well. But monocrops, again, we understand but what a monocrop is one single crop. So having one farm that only produces cocoa, and how we brought producers, again, the idea is to pragmatically to solve different issues that cocoa has as an species. Cocoa has been demonstrated comes from the high basin of Amazon, located between Ecuador, Peru, and Colombia, and cocoa originated under the shade of big trees naturally. So again, there's a very interesting research as to the origins of cocoa, but what we have clear about its origins is that it came or it was born under the shade of trees. And it also has the capacity of doing photosynthesis in a way that is efficient under shade, which is important. This is an advantage compared to other crops such as corn. For instance, if you plant corn under the shade of a tree, that corn is not going to be very successful. So this is sort of like evolution of this species, cocoa that is. And when we wanted to intensify crops a few decades ago, we tried to grow it without shade, and we learned that it would not grow the way it should. And we also learned that its photosynthesis was better under shade. So this was a very practical, pragmatic exercise. We learned that we could not move the place where we could grow cocoa, and again, we also saw that as an advantage because farmers might decide to embrace or reject this technology, and we would tell farmers that they could grow cocoa in agroforestry systems, because this was better for them. Initially, they were planting under 70% shade, which this was usually provided by plantain and other lumber trees. And after 25 years, again, these lumber trees were going to become lumber and help these producers retire. So we try to show to them all these advantages. And in this specific case, again, we focus very much on the economic advantages, but we have advanced, and we have advanced alongside with society, and again societies are becoming more and more demanding, so we began to speak about carbon emissions as well, and we determined that this agroforestry system that CO2 that caused this problem with CO2 could be captured by these agroforestry systems, and we saw this tremendous potential in the agroforestry systems. We determined that we could also monetize this agroforestry system. So we tell producers nowadays that they can monetize those agroforestry systems, and the agroforestry systems are good for cocoa, for the photosynthesis of cocoa, and so on. And nowadays, again, we're not only speaking about carbon sequestration, we have gone beyond that. Now we're speaking about biodiversity as well, and this is why we have this inventory, this study, to indicate that these agroforestry cocoa systems have additional benefits. And again, the idea is to monetize all this, because sustainability is without a doubt a very important economic component. So this is how all this story connects. And you're speaking about integrality again, producers with their crops as a business. Of course, they have to manage many different parameters. It's not only producing and growing cocoa and selling cocoa. No, in addition, there are many other additional things: nature, resources, harmony with nature as well, being harmonious with the species that live in the crop itself. So, Danny, if you can please tell us a little bit Again, by understanding the importance of biodiversity, Daniela, again, understanding this importance, again, what is the strategic importance now of speaking about biodiversity? Again, if you can speak a little bit more about biodiversity and its importance. Well, let me narrate a story that is older than Alejandro's story. Coco was domesticated, as he mentioned, in Santa Ana, a place in Ecuador, 5,300 years ago. 5,003 years ago, we turned this wild plant into a domesticated plant in Santa Ana, Ecuador. So throughout all these years, and again, this domestication was also taken advantage of by the Spaniards who took cocoa to the Europe. But again, so far technology hasn't been able to beat nature. Cocoa is better, produces better under forestry conditions, either a forestry or agroforestry conditions. But again, for more than 5,000 years, cocoa has always been covered by trees, and that creates a dependency between the plant and nature, and with all the other biodiversity elements that enable this agroforestry assembly to provide specific conditions for the crop. That's the first story that I want to tell you. The second story is that at ProForest, one of our missions is to work with the private sector to promote this conservation agenda inside their businesses. We believe that it is important for all companies to include sustainability as a way of doing business, and this is where we find common interest with Nacional de Chocolates and with Cordillera specifically. 2 years ago, we visited the Cordillera farms for the first time to see what they were doing, how they were doing it, and what else we could do. And one of the questions was, do you guys know everything that you have in these farms, in these agroforestry farms? And they said, yes, we have an idea. We have sort of like this lizard, we have sort of like these birds, these parrots that have a nest there. So we have sort of like an idea, was the reply. So the idea back then was to be truly aware of the natural capital or the biodiversity in their agroforestry farms, and how that could be an added value for their business. So we began working with Universidad del Norte. Juan Pablo Gomez is somewhere in the back. So with the help of the university and its professional team, we conducted this inventory of biodiversity. Then we knew what we had, we knew what this natural capital was, which is sort of like the foundation of the business, and is another benefit in addition to the great quality of the cocoa. So we also began to think as to how we could improve the tree coverage for that biodiversity, and to see how we could improve the carbon sequestration by the trees, how we could improve the soils and the water quality, and how we could promote connectivity among the different natural spaces that are remaining in Colombia. And again, also the area where this company is based is an area where its original ecosystem is only 10%. And cocoa is one of those few products that can act as an ally for the conservation of that natural ecosystem, that 10% natural ecosystem that is left in Colombia. So let's go to the next slide, please, so we can tell you about the field work. Next slide, please. So this is about the specific work that we did. I'm not going to go into many details, but in the international market, 80% of the cocoa is sold under bulk conditions that comes mostly from monocrops in Africa. Latin America is recognized because its cocoa is different. This is partially because of its profile, and also because of everything that is associated to it. Traceability. We can also indicate that there's zero deforestation and sustainability, and biodiversity is quite important here. So in this exercise that we conducted, next slide please. So we try to focus on sustainable cocoa, free of deforestation. There's also a social part, and there's also a part with regards to respecting nature. Again, if the master can help us with the next slide, please. I'm not going to read all this text. I just want to let you know that we conducted a complete technical protocol that we implemented and developed with Universidad del Norte to analyze all the different groups of species. As you can see here, this was basically work that was done 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Some groups work in the early morning, in the middle of the day, late night. So we'd hear, we'd listen, we smell, we take photographs, we take samples. We could do transects. We also take samples, for instance, the species that lived in the rivers in the area. But none of this inventory implies having to kill any of these specimens again, and we are being less and less intrusive with regards to the capture of sounds, with regards to capturing size and trails. And again, these were the main groups that we focus on. Reptiles and amphibians are indicated there. Herpets, they're called as a group. But after analyzing the 3 farms and their biodiversity, these were some of the conclusions that their landscape there is not degraded. There's connectivity in their matrix that integrates production with conservation, which is important because if biodiversity does not have a physical support, they cannot live. For instance, birds cannot live in the air. Birds have to stop, rest, drink water, eat, and so on. So first, our finding here is that this landscape is not degraded in terms of vegetation. With regards to this cocoa landscape, there's natural growth that is not limited. With regards to birds, there's different types of birds. There are birds that live in the soil, and there's birds that live on the air, on the trees actually. So we found all the different families of birds, which indicates that this is a very functional ecosystem in terms of birds. We also found plenty of pollinizers, which is also very important. Biodiverse pollinizers protect our crops. They pollinize, of course, and in the case of cocoa, pollinizers are very important. Pollinizers also enable the existence of flora that might attract other natural controllers, natural pest and disease controllers. So these pollinizers are extremely important. We found what we call mid-sized carnivores. Mid-sized carnivores do not mid-sized carnivores again feel comfortable in these farms. Migration birds or migration species as well. We're speaking about species that go from the north to the south. These birds do not rest in places where they do not feel at ease to rest, to eat, and to drink some water. We also, again, found migratory species, which is extremely important. And another very important far here is endemic herpets, reptiles and amphibians, in other words, reptiles and amphibians. And because of the skin of these species, any type of pollution or degradation affects their skin immediately. And in this area we found frogs as well as fish, which indicate that they benefit from these operations that use less pesticides, less chemicals, and so on. So in some way they are protected. And as Jorge mentioned before, we are going to be sharing this. We're going to be sharing something with you in just a little bit, something that we developed, but mostly reptiles, frogs, and so on. Something that I read somewhere. Again, it is very important to find frogs or reptiles. Basiliscus, for instance, or frogs indicate the quality of the water. And if the quality of the water is fine, the crop is fine. So if the water is fine, pretty much everything else is fine. So if the crop, if nature is fine, well, we will be able to stay here. Of course, the industry, that reflects that we have a healthy industry and that there's collective well-being in general. Something also very interesting, Daniel. Again, these were findings of this inventory exercise that you conducted with the university. And something interesting to me is how you did it. When we look at the different photos and the different images of all the different technicians, scientists, biologists, and all the other disciplines that were part of the different teams. Again, this was amazing. I felt that I was part of a National Geographic documentary while you guys were there. It was completely amazing. So let's continue with the next slide, please. And please tell us how you did it. Well, something that is great and well, there's that's not. Have you seen this type of monkey? Is despelucado. Despelucado. Look at his hair. This is Atiti cabeciblanco, Saginus oedipus. It only exists in 6 or 7 departments of Colombia. This again, white hair monkey only lives on 6 or 7 states in Colombia, nowhere else in the world. And this is sort of like an emblem of what we can still find in healthy cocoa landscapes, healthy cocoa plantations. And Cordillera, as many of its allies, again, are playing a very important role in promoting this sustainable cocoa plantations that enable this white-haired monkey, Saginus oedipus, to remain alive. Well, many of you who are here today, we can see that many of you are wearing a pin of this type of monkey, Saginus oedipus or Titi cabeciblanco. Again, this Saginus oedipus, I can see you with the pin. Natalia has that pin, and some of you have this pin. So I'm sorry for the interruption. Please continue. And here on these images, again, I would like to illustrate or I'll tell you again that this is a great team. This is people that love to work in the countryside. It's not easy work. Early morning hours, late night hours. You do not rest a lot. When you're trying to observe fauna, for instance, you cannot smell differently. So these are people that usually do not shower while they are working in the field. They try to, again, hide their smells. It's not easy. The most natural spaces, although they are beautiful for photographs, they're full of bugs, ants, fleas, ticks. It's not easy work. Again, the work of these people is not easy. They do it because they feel that it is important to demonstrate biodiversity in these production landscapes. Again, they measure the vegetation, they measure the diameter of the trees to guarantee that the trees are old, that they are growing, that they're in good conditions, that they can produce fruit and regenerate. They also conduct transects. Of course, walking in the different farms. No method of transportation is used because that scares the different species. They also use different technologies. We can see the strap cameras where they take photographs. Again, it is better not to have humans on this trail. They leave the camera there for hours and then they come back and process the information using software. And out of thousands of photographs, they identify the different species that can be recognized and studied in a platform. Again, it's not only recognizing the species, it's looking at the habits of the species. And as I mentioned before, with regards to potable or drinkable water, again, for instance, to identify fish, you have to use nets, or you have to use a small amount of electricity to sort of like make the fish a little bit sleepy. And it's not easy. It's not easy to electrocute live animals without having consequences. Again, but these are experts in the use of those devices, and they use them to identify this diversity in our cocoa plantations, including freshwater bodies, without affecting them. There's a couple of additional photographs that illustrate how difficult their work was. You can see them on the top photographs using nets, and they spend hours wet, trying to identify what's there. And they do it with the idea of identifying and valuing or giving a value to this natural capital in our country. Thank you, Daniel. We wanted to present context. Again, what Daniel said is interesting, beautiful photographs, and all these things are beautiful, but understanding the work that is needed for all of this is very important. So technicians, biologists, scientists, and we also have technicians in our farms, and through this collective work, we have converted or we have translated all this work into knowledge and into content that, as we mentioned before, the key actor the key actor, the spine of all this process is the farmer, the producer. We would have to, again, speak with the 65,000 producing families around the country so they can implement all these practices and be harmonious with their crops, with their farms. So I think it was indeed necessary to share with you this behind the scenes for this exercise, but it is also again very important to highlight the work of all the technical people in our territory, because they will translate all these findings into knowledge and into information for the complete sector. Alejandro, if you want to tell us a little bit more about the next step, about the mission that we are embarking on to continue developing the sector, to continue developing capacities, and to continue producing technical information for the sector, of course working hand in hand with the agricultural promotion team. You mentioned something interesting. Our company has been buying cocoa since we came into business 105 years ago, and we have been promoting the crop since 1958, close to 70 years. And why is this important? Well, it is important because paradigms change, because societies evolve, because agroforestry systems may have gained importance to capture carbon, and we might evolve in the future as a diversity to highlight or to give more relevance to biodiversity. And it is definitely important, and we're working with producers, we're working with our clients, we're working with society. We're all working together to understand how we have to move. And again, this is a change process. So this change is taking place in the paradigms as well as in the crops, in the cultivation itself. And the most important part here is involving producers. But we are producers ourselves. We are affected by Bonilla, and we have to control it. And again, it's a pest that we have in Colombia. It's called Monilla locally. So we handle that, and once we solve that Monilla issue, we communicate information to other producers. So again, we work on solving problems in these agroforestry systems that we have, so we can evaluate and investigate and research. And again, we have the land, we have the trajectory, and we have this direct contact with producers. And it is, yes, a commercial relationship, but it is also a training, educational relationship. Many producers are trained year after year. And again, this is the way we communicate this message. And again, Communication is not simply extending or bringing a message to them. It is also receiving a message from them. So this is why we believe in the value of participation and working with producers. This is why one of the fundamental points of our proposal that we analyzed with ProForest is that we needed to go beyond being a baseline for our farms. We needed to bring this to citizens. We wanted to turn this into citizen science as well. And we're focusing on two states, two departments, the most important departments in terms of cocoa production in Colombia. But again, we're not analyzing other ecosystems. For instance, Llanos Orientales, in Nariño, in Tumaco, in other areas, Putumayo, Caquetá. Again, we're the country with the highest biodiversity, and that is because we have one of the most diverse geographies. We have mountain ranges that go up 5,000 meters above sea level, and then it drops, and then it goes up again, the altitude. So all these physical barriers are good for new species and for new crops, but we still have a long way to go. And we cannot do all the work on our own. This is why we have to work with others, and this is why we understand that farmers, producers are the most important actor. And again, it's not us going to them, telling them this is the response. No, that's not what we're doing. We have still a long trajectory, a long path to go hand in hand with the producers. I want to emphasize what you just mentioned about articulation. You mentioned articulation of us as chocolate producers and everything that happens in the production chain before us. But again, I would like to also speak as to what happens in front of us. What do restaurants do? What do different brands do with our product? What do companies that use our chocolate as an ingredient, what do they do with it? What do they do to give additional life to all these initiatives and to all the work that you mentioned? And again, and to understand the basic role of nature, not only as a resource, tourists, but as an asset for our businesses. And in this area, we have a fundamental, spectacular ally. Parmesano y Todo Fresa is the name of this ally. Since 2019, they are promoting our conservation menu, and year after year, they do spectacular things in that area. And again, their business model is to conserve and to take care of species that are facing critical threats. So I would like to continue with you, and I would like to ask you, Pedro, where does this initiative come from? Can you tell us what this conservation menu is, and can you tell us where we can go and enjoy that conservation menu? Well, thank you, Jota, for the question. I'm quite proud to be here today in this very beautiful space of Cordillera to speak to you about biodiversity. There are not many spaces set aside to speak about biodiversity, a very valuable topic, biodiversity. So it is great to have this opportunity, and it is great to be invited to be part of this effort. This story of the conservation menu, well, our story is a family story, so I'm going to sort of like not speak a lot about the company itself, because otherwise I'll be here forever. But for as far as I can remember, I have been fascinated by nature, and since I was quite young, we were part of a project, and my dad actually led this project, and this project was to relocate wild fauna in our fauna in Támesis, which is actually close to one of the farms of Compañía Nacional de Chocolate, one of their cocoa farms. And again, animals that were victims of traffic, wild fauna traffic, they would give us those animals so we can undertake a process to release them in nature. For those of you that do not know about this, wild fauna traffic is the third most important illegal activity in the planet. It was the fourth, now it is the third, and Colombia is one of those countries with the highest numbers of illegal wild animal traffic around the world. Of course, that's not cool, that's not good for Colombia. So working hand in hand with Cor Antioquia, we conducted a very diligent process to try to bring these animals to the into their wild fauna, into nature again, and we did a lot of work with parrots. Many of those parrots had no wings. We also worked with monkeys that had tattoos in them. We also had different foxes that acted as dogs, and we again ran into all these different sad situations with wild animals. And again, when I was a kid, that clicked in my brain, and I understood that that was part of my mission in this planet and my commitment in this planet. And years after that, when we began to work harder in our business, Parmesano y Todo Fresa, again in 2018, we had bonds with Cor Antioquia. So Gaia was introduced to us. Gaia focuses on a species of bird. Spectacle bear is a spectacle bear. That's the species that they focus on. And they told us we have this issue with this bear. And they told us that because of corn crops, bears were moving down the mountains and going into the communities, and these are animals that are 150 to 200 kilos with big paws. And again, people were afraid of them because these bears were close to schools and so on. So we needed to implement an action plan, and to preserve the life of those bears, because again they were moving into the communities and people were afraid of them. So I remember that we were at Viva Envigado, a nearby shopping center, and we determined that this was a good opportunity to obtain trap cameras and to be able to conduct additional training. Again, we saw that a good opportunity was to implement this menu that was mentioned before, and to destine part of the proceeds from the sales of that menu for conservation efforts. And also the idea was to take advantage of our clients visiting our restaurant to tell them about these different issues that we have with this species, to tell them about biodiversity in Colombia, and to tell them why biodiversity has to be protected in Colombia. And we understood why this needed to be the commitment of all of us. So again, we launched that first conservation menu, thinking of all those things, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful effort. It was a beautiful effort, and it was beautiful work done from the inside to the outside. Again, the connection of our team was beautiful. The acceptance of this campaign was also phenomenal, and of course you have to make that your team falls in love at first before you can make the rest of the population fall in love with it. So we determined that there were many species that were under extinction threats, including this spectacled bear. And we realized that all these species needed someone to speak for them. After that, in 2020, we had the pandemic, and apparently the only species that was going to survive was humans, but we didn't do much during 2020. But in 2021, we began to work with a species of eagle. Again, the largest species of eagle in the Americas, is the largest species in Colombia, is also under extinction threat. Again, this is called the harpy eagle, and we focus this work on the Pacific coast, Bahia Solano, Botanical Garden of the Pacific. Recently they had killed one of these eagles in this area, harpy eagle, so we decided to focus our world working with Grandes Rapaces, Colom. And again, I do not want to take a lot of time in all these different efforts, but after that we went from the jungle to the sea, and we work with Tortugas del Mar, we work with sea turtles. In Colombia we had 5 species of sea turtles. They are all under extinction threats. We have a turtle in one of our coins again. Dollars and peso coins has this turtle that has a big head. And then we began to work on a Montañerito paisa, which is a species of bird, endemic bird, called Montañerito paisa locally. And endemic means that it only lives in that region. And again, that makes it even more vulnerable. If it is endemic, it is more vulnerable. If it disappears in that region, well, it is erased from our map. We also work with Neotropical Innovation, a beautiful campaign, very paisa campaign, because of, again, the name of this bird, Montañerito paisa. Paisa refers to this region, so that was a beautiful effort as well. In 2024, we began to work with a big predator. Again, the most important predator in our country, jaguar, and the jaguars are very much distributed throughout the national territory. And when we began to look for allies for this effort with jaguars, again, when we began to look for allies, we discovered very interesting things, very cool things that were being done with regards to jaguars, being done in different territories under different perspectives. And we had a difficult time we thought it was going to be difficult. We thought it was going to be difficult to select one single partner. So we decided to go with more than one ally. So what we did was to include additional restaurants here in Medellin, to include those restaurants so they could collaborate in this campaign. We work with La Miguería, La Causa, Mundo Verde, El Rancherito. Again, these are all different local restaurants that are part of this effort with jaguars, and we had a very important achievement. We affected different jaguar habitats in Colombia. Last year, we also worked with another bird, with another monkey species. This is Titigris, or is a type of Saginus, is a type of monkey, Titigris. We did this with Cornare, with Corantioquia as well, and the results of this campaign were also tremendous. And the campaign that we are currently embarked on is a campaign for the condor of the Andes. Condor is the largest bird, largest flying bird in the world. Again, is also under extinction threats. Less than 200 condors are left in Colombia, and in a country that is so big, again, that's really not many condors left. So we're working on that. We're working on this with Jaime Duque Park. I do not know if you guys are aware of this, but they are leading the efforts for reproduction and conservation of condors in Colombia. And again, we're also working with El Parque de la Conservación, or Conservation Park. Additional topics to begin closing my presentations. Otherwise, I'll be here forever because this is quite exciting. The work what Parmesano and Todo Fresa is doing to promote these initiatives is tremendous. So please go ahead. Go ahead. It's okay that you become excited. So how do we select the species that we're going to focus on for the year? Well, first it has to be a Colombian fauna species. That is an important criterion. The second criteria is for it to be an umbrella species. Basiliscus was mentioned before. An umbrella species is a species that indicate the health of the ecosystem. Where you have bears, for instance, you have forest. Where you have forest, you have fresh water, and where you have fresh water, you have life. So when you protect this umbrella species, you're sort of like protecting the complete ecosystem in terms of fauna and flora. So that was the second criteria. And the third criteria that we use for selecting a species is that this has to be a species under extinction threats. So the effort to protect them is more relevant. And how do we select the different allies that we work with? Well, we work with different conservation projects, we work with NGOs, we work with different corporations that are already working in conservation. We, in other words, act as a bridge or act as a vehicle to materialize different things, to materialize different resources. But at the end of the day, it is these parties or allies that execute the efforts themselves, the specific efforts themselves. And the campaign has three macro objectives. The first macro objective is an economic objective. Well, economic through the sales of this conservation menu. 10% of the sales of those conservation menus are used for conservation actions. These are actions that we analyze with our different allies, and of course we prepare different budgets for those goals. The second macro objective is a communications objective. In other words, is to try to take advantage of the time that people spend in our restaurants or in our social media or in our web pages or anywhere else. How do we take advantage of those spaces to speak about this, to speak about the importance of this in the ecosystem, and to understand how we all can contribute to conservation. And the third objective, macro objective, is to inspire others to conserve our wild fauna. Colombia, again, is the most biodiverse country in the world. Someone said it's the second. Actually, the first one is Brazil. But if you look at square meters or density, in terms of density, we are the countries with the largest biodiversity in terms of density. So that is our biggest advantage compared to other countries. So again, we need to highlight that because that's what differentiates us as a country. So it's sort of like inspiring the public sector and the private sector to bet on conservation, for them to learn more about the biodiversity that surrounds us. Pero thank you. Well, I would like to begin closing this panel with one transversal question, well, actually, a question that applies to everyone here. And how can we inspire? How can we create an inspirational message, a message that invites people to act throughout the ecosystem? I would like to begin with you, Pedro. So, how do we tell consumers that again? How does Parmesano restaurant, Todo Fresa restaurant, how can you tell consumers get on the bus? Get on the bus, join this initiative for this species or for that species. How can we inspire? Well, something that is extremely important, I believe the first and most important part is for people to get to understand and to be aware of what we have, for people to not go through life speaking about initiatives and not really knowing or double clicking on these initiatives. I think that it is very important to be aware of what we have, to be aware of our biodiversity. People do not take care of those things that they do not know about, and we do not love those things that we do not know about. So something very important here is that yes, it is beautiful to look at other countries, to look at Africa, the African savanna, lions, hippopotamus, elephants, and so on. But here locally we also have beautiful species, and we need to fall in love with those species. We need to get to know them and fall in love with them, and based on that we might come up with additional ways to support. But I think that is a very important message for people, again, for people to get to know and to generate relationships with what we have. Well, paraphrasing what Pedro just said, we have the mission of making our clients fall in love with these efforts and to get to know what's happening. Same question for Alejandro. Alejandro. So the company Nacional de Chocolates, how do we get others on the bus? How can we inspire others to act? Our allies, our clients, public-private institutions, farmer guilds, again, how can we inspire them to act again as a company, as a brand? I think this is very much related to what Pedro just mentioned. We usually have ideas of something when you hear about something. Again, you hear, you learn about, but you hear about something, so you have an idea, but when you learn, your idea changes, your affection changes. It is also in the way the story is told. But yes, farmers, producers are completely rational with regards to decision making, so we have to present to them a balance with regards to economics, and without a doubt, there's a huge gap between the urban and the rural side in our country. And again, this gap has been there for a long time, and farmers are also looking at improving their power to acquire, their capacity to acquire. And we're also aware that farmers also need to hear about a relative advantage or something additional that generates well-being and income for them. So this is why we see this as a tremendous opportunity. Yes, a tremendous opportunity of being part of this market, carbon market, biodiversity market, and so on. And again, this baseline is the first step. Unit is CO2 equivalent. That is the unit. So I believe this can be an economic strategy to solve climate problems that we currently have. And how do we do this in terms of biodiversity? Well, we're just beginning here. And again, we have to continue with responsibility and with innovation to identify, so we can produce a message to generate changes in people and generate changes in behavior. We are the main producers of cocoa plantlets in Colombia. We have the largest greenhouses, and in those greenhouses we can also produce our other forestry species, and actually we do it. So this is how we change that reality with regards to the inputs that are required. So you're inviting others to collaborate in the sector, right? It's not only the mission or the responsibility of the companies, there is the mission and the responsibility of the complete ecosystem. With this, I would like to conclude. I would like to express my thanks to all of you, to our panel members, and I think that the next step or future steps are or the invitation that I would like to extend to you and that I am taking with me is to begin working on different collaboration exercises with regards to the management of nature as an asset and as an engine for our cocoa industry. Again, thank you everyone. Thanks to the panel members. I think that you guys were quite inspiring, and I think that this connects everything, again, from ground zero, from beginning to grow to consumption. Everything is connected here in the world of cocoa. So again, thanks to you for being here today, and we would like to continue with the next item on our agenda. Again, thank you very much. And I would like to give the word or pass the microphone to Danny, who is going to tell us how we're going to continue with today's agenda. Daniela says, thank you, Jota. Thanks to the panel members. It is interesting, and I think we all have a bit more clarity with regards to the different strategies, with regards to materializing the different strategies, and with regards to the role that we play in this cocoa producing chain that you mentioned before. Jota, you mentioned that you were going to describe this a little bit more before. Each one of the different species that we mentioned before has a story, and the story that we want to describe to you is going to be described or narrated through you through the different chocolate bars that we will be presenting to you today. Before we go into the details, there's been some spoilers. Basiliscus, Saginus Oedipus, Basilicus, Jesus Christ is called in some areas because it walks on water. And the other one, again, was the white hair monkey that was mentioned before. So through this biodiversity kit, we are also launching a new concept. Nature for business, business for nature is the concept. N would be in Spanish. Nature for business, business for nature. In Spanish, it would be for N. So again, this is a game with words. C for Cordillera is the center of everything, where we speak about conservation, care, and connection. And we understand that if we speak about the complete chain, again, from the first to the last link, consumer, consuming, using, and producing chocolate, but also transforming the chocolate and transforming, again, chocolate into turning chocolate from cocoa. And again, we all have the same objective. The objective is taking care of nature so we can take care of our business, take care of our resilience, and take care of our planet. So these are the three bars that we have developed. The first one, again they relate to conservation, care, and protection. One of these bars is 30% cocoa, Cordillera. Danny has the one that is 30%, and here we can see the Titi cabeciblanco or Saginus Oedipus, which is the species, an endemic species that is under critical threats of extinction. And again, cocoa production has become a tool to conserve this species, and we understand the role that it plays for this small monkey with white hair. Ecosystem also acts as a corridor that is essential for this small primate to continue growing, to continue living, reproducing, and promoting biodiversity in these cocoa ecosystems. Let's continue with care. C for care. Again, conservation, care, and connection. And this is Basiliscus, which is a small lizard, the one that is called Jesus Christ in some areas because it walks on water. So this is our semi-sweet chocolate or bittersweet chocolate. So this chocolate bar is a tribute to those lizards, to those amphibians, and how they represent what we understand with regards to the health of different sweet water bodies that are necessary for the ecosystem. This is why we call this the Care Chocolate Bar. And we understand that this wonderful reptile can walk on water. And again, this reptile is an indicator of the health of our biodiversity. So the presence of Basiliscus indicates that sweet water and the soil are coexisting under healthy conditions. And finally, we're going into the last C for connection. Go back one slide, please. The last C for connection, and this is a tremendous story. This a small bird is called Piranga olivacea. It's a red bird, very resilient bird. Piranga olivacea. Scarlet tanager in English. Scarlet tanager, and this bird, the family of tanners, they fly during winter from the northeast of the United States, the northeast of Canada, and during winter they fly all the way down to our agroforestry cocoa plantations precisely to find refuge. It is sort of like a sanctuary. It is a bird sanctuary, our cocoa farms, and this is also a tremendous indicator as to how Colombia connects to the rest of the world. Our Cordillera chocolate bars again connects to the rest of the world, and this is an indication as to how Colombia connects to the rest of the world. So we have reached this tremendous concept. Click one more time, please. And that is, this is again C's. Cordillera is cocoa, chocolate, Colombia, and it is also conservation, it is also care, and it is, thank you, Jota, and let's give him a round of applause for this tremendous strategy. And again, as part of our brand communications strategy, as mentioned by Natalia before, Cordillera is a brand that is present in more than 22 countries in 3 different continents. So we do have a global impact, and this is why this strategy has to again have the same strategy in all these different contexts. On the next slide, we're going to tell you a little bit more about this 360-degree strategy. We are going to have 6 key moments. Right now we are in 0 key moment. You on site and you connected online are finding out about the strategy. We're going to communicate this to our sales force, and we're going to have different launchings. We have a very important ally here, País Gourmet, with Dulce Mania. This is a very important event in Colombia. This year is going to be in Eje Cafetero in Bogota, and we're going to be part of that initiative. And again, in this initiative, we are representing the sector in different fronts. And this is we're going to also produce different recipe books. A key vehicle for Cordillera are different national and international fairs and events. We have some fairs here on the slide, but again, this is going to be a key vehicle for communication. We're also part of this strategy M5, or step 5 is going to be segmented digital communication, and we're also going to develop a model for conservation. Another important thing is with regards to the tools that our clients are going to have in the different sales points. We have Mundo Huevo, for instance, another important client for us here today. So again, they are all here today, and Natalia Madrid, she's responsible for the food service segment globally, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about the different tools that we're going to have for communications in our different sales points. And we can go ahead and present the next slide, please. Natalie Madrid is my name. I'm part of the marketing team, and I'm part of the food service marketing marketing strategy. And for us, it is a dream to materialize all this with our clients, transforming clients, intermediary clients, and so on. And again, this is a dream that is going to become a reality, and we're going to have different marketing pieces to communicate what we have told you today about biodiversity. Here we have some of these marketing tools that we want to use. We have, for instance, brochures, recipe books, we have placemats, we have different elements that we want to use. And the idea is, again, to also use QRs as well to be able to discover more information. And all this is supported, again, as mentioned before, by this digital strategy. So for our clients, local clients, and for our clients connected online from the different countries, we would like you to know that we have this toolkit or this digital playbook, and again you will be able to use this in your different sales points. Without a doubt, it's been a tremendous morning, full of surprises, full of information, full of scientific data, and we were also able to show you how this scientific world lives in our cocoa productions. This is why at Cordillera we want these lives to bloom at the places of origin of our crops. Those of you who are on site and online are going to, we're now going to live this experience. And as mentioned before, none of this would be possible without the origin, without the genesis. And the genesis is the actual farms, cocoa farms. And again, those of you who are here today, we have headphones for you. Those of you who are on streaming, please turn on your headphones. Headsets that we have sort of like a green button and cover your eyes. Those of you who are online, please close your eyes. Those of you sitting here, please close your eyes, cover your eyes, and please do not forget the essence and what has brought us here today, which is our sustainable cocoa. Are we all ready? You have to turn on, those of you on site, you have to turn on your headsets, and we're going to run a test just to make sure that it is working. There should be a light, green light, those of you using headphones on site. Please close your eyes for this experience. 8D experience.
Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath. You are about to enter Guacamayas, our training cocoa farm in Guacamayas, Antioquia, Colombia. A place where cocoa grows in harmony with life. Walk slowly. Feel the living ground beneath your feet. Breathe in the humidity. Notice the scent of earth, leaves, and nature. Here, every step is part of the ecosystem. You are not alone. Around you, insects, birds, and reptiles coexist with the cocoa trees. This is a living agroforestry ecosystem. Listen closely. Every sound is a sign of balance. Here, biodiversity is not something you observe. It is something you feel. In front of you, a cocoa pod. Hold it gently. Within this fruit lies origin, dedication, and deep respect for the land. To protect this ecosystem is to protect the future. Because when we safeguard biodiversity, we safeguard life. And when we care for life, the future flourishes. At Cordillera, we cultivate life.
Now you can remove your headphones. At Cordillera, again, we grow life, we cultivate life. We would like to close with a round of applause. Thanks, everyone. Thank you all. Thanks to those of you who are here on site. Those of you on site, please stay here. Those of you online, more than 100 people connected online from 15 different countries. So thanks for being with us as well. Thanks for believing in Cordillera. We're all part of the story. And keep in mind that Cordillera is a brand of chocolate ingredients. The bars that we're going to received today are simply tasting kits for our clients. They do not really have a commercial value. They're not going to be sold commercially, but please keep in mind that each one of you is a basic part of this story that we are living together. So thank you everyone for this very important moment that marks the story of our brand. Another very important message for our allies online. I'm going to say this online because many of you are located in different countries around the world. So the message for those of you is to join us, to work with us, to collaborate with us, to articulate with us. And this is only the beginning of something that is extremely important for our business, for the countryside, for agriculture, for cocoa, not only in Colombia but throughout the planet, and for the continuity of the cocoa industry. So that is the message for everyone. Thank to those of you connected online, and we can close the streaming at this point. Thank you. Can finish the streaming.